Thanks for tuning in to the Women's Vibrancy Code, a podcast dedicated to helping women move from exhausted to energized, balance their hormones, and feeling turned on by their life, their lover, and themselves. I'm your host, Maraya Brown. I'm a Yale and functional medicine trained women's health expert, midwife, mom, keynote speaker, and self-made entrepreneur. I'm the founder of my signature program, the Women's Vibrancy Code. So sit back, relax, and let's chat about your energy, hormones, libido, and embracing your feminine power. Oh, and you might want to have pen and paper to take some notes on some of these episodes. Welcome back. I have with me the period whisperer, Bria Gadd. So a little bit about Bria, and then we're just going to dig right in and have a really yummy, juicy conversation. Bria Gadd is a functional diagnostic practitioner, holistic health coach, and certified personal trainer who specializes in female hormones, helping women with weight release and energy gain in pre- and post-menopause and finding clarity in hormonal chaos. Our work is very similar, I imagine, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation, Bria. Do you want to add anything else to your introduction?
No, thank you so much for having me. I always love talking with other women, who are in this space, because I think just continuing to spread the knowledge and also learn from each other is so, it's what really fills my cup for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've already been on your podcast and we talked about breast health.
Yeah,
So for those of you that are listening in the podcasting world, you're welcome to go back. It's the Period Whisperer, right? That's the podcast as well.
that's the name of the
And
podcast.
if you're wanting more, there's all sorts of great goodness there. And we'll make sure in the show notes we have her Facebook handle, or an Instagram handle, and her website and all of that stuff. So I think let's start out with, it's so interesting. I was having a conversation with a woman this weekend, and she's like, man, my period is all over the place. I must be in perimenopause now. And she's like 47. Curious, what is perimenopause? Like, how does a woman know if and when she's in it compared to menopause and this like journey that all women will inevitably go through?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what perimenopause is not a diagnosable condition. I think of it really as like a reverse puberty transition.
Yep.
Um, and like all transitions, whether you're moving or changing jobs or getting married or getting divorced, like you kind of go from walking on solid ground to like walking on a suspension bridge, where suddenly the footing is not so sturdy, like a wind blows and you're like, whoa, what's happening here? That's all transition. So this transition, kind of like puberty, kind of begins for all kids around like 11, 12, 13. This transition really begins for all women around 35-ish, mid 30s. And um, I think the initial part of the transition is like whose role is handling these main sex hormones. That's kind of like the passing of the torch from the ovaries to those adrenals. So, first of all, so if you're over 35 and you haven't gone a full year without a cycle, you're in perimenopause. You're in the trend.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. We are all here. And it is not so bad.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, welcome to the party. It doesn't have to be bad. But I think when we understand that, like, okay, it's a journey, it's a transition. So one, the torch is being passed. So obviously the state of our adrenals and the state of how solid our ground is during that transition is really going to determine how soon we experience symptoms, how intense those symptoms might be. For me, I started experiencing them at 37. And whereas, 47, I think is a much more common time we hear people, although I think they start much before that. We're just really exceptional as women at telling ourselves we're fine or
Yeah.
ignoring it or something.
Or we're just too busy, or we don't necessarily connect the dots. I mean, I remember in as early as 35 to 37, there was a phase where I was noticing some little mid-cycle spotting
Uh,
but it was gone. Or before I started bleeding, I would just spot, 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 and then bleed. But I
yeah.
didn't, even as a clinician, I didn't necessarily think, oh, this is perimenopause. And Oh, that little bit of more pronounced irritability with around the PMS phase.
Hmm.
Is it just stress? Is it because I have three children? Is it because life is a more busy time and oh, we are in a pandemic? Or,
Yeah.
huh,
Yeah.
is there a hormonal component here?
Yeah, exactly. And so I do think that oftentimes, like if we think about transition is really another energy demand on the body, oftentimes we can quickly blame our hormones or like, oh, I don't have enough hormones, or but even more, it can be that it's this energy drawdown. Like just like when you're pregnant in that first trimester and you're kind of dog tired because your body's creating a human, like your body is doing something else behind the scenes right now. And that is going to draw down on your energy. So if your energy
Mhm.
supply is not meeting your energy demand, we're going to experience irritability. We're going to experience brain fog, we're going to experience a lot of other things. And the longer
Mhm.
that goes on, the more those symptoms can be just from that simple energy supply and demand imbalance
Yeah.
before we even get to hormones.
Curious if there are any men listening to this who happen to be supporting women around them
Mhm.
that I'll have men reach out to me and go, "Oh my God, it's our hormones. Can you help?" And I go, "Oh, that's a little judgmental." I'm curious, what would you say to the men that are listening if they happen to spend a lot of time with a woman who's in that 35 to 55 age range?
What would I say to them?
Yeah. How do, what are things that they can expect? How do they best support the women that they love and support, whether it's a mother or a wife or a coworker or a sister or a friend, and they start noticing shifts in
Yeah.
this woman that they've known for a while?
Yeah, I think the best thing that can be done first is to try to alleviate some of this energy demand and supply deficit, you know, where
Mm,
it's like, can I create take on a little bit of the demand so that their demand decreases?
mm,
Um, and in any relationship, like this is the ebb and flow of what works in a relationship. It's never like 50-50. It's like sometimes I'm giving 60 and you're giving 40. And this is a phase where as a male partner or, you know, connector to another woman, where if you can give just a little more, it's going to make a big difference all around
mhm.
for everyone to
Yeah,
just
right.
alleviate some of the demand on her.
Yeah. And so we as women, the more we can receive and allow that support to come in and set some boundaries, and then for those that love us that are around us to give just a tad bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you say that because I do think, you know, not all women are like this, but I would often get into that little martyr land of like, no, I've got it all. I can do it all, you
Mhm.
know? And I think we also have to recognize, okay, more is happening. And it's very important that this happens. And it's like short-term pain for long-term gain. I really believe when it comes to this transition and then heading into menopause and the opportunity that brings for us.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a two-sided, it's a partnership thing. So
Yeah.
if they can offer more and we can accept it, then we'll have more to give back at another time.
And women to women, whether you have a sister or a friend or a wife, whatever it may be, we can all figure out ways to go, okay, what does support look like? And how are you doing in receiving this support? Because on the other end, when you say the baton gets passed from the ovaries over to the adrenals, if it's a woman who's listening who's between the age of 35 and 55, let's say,
Mhm.
and she really struggles with receiving support. No, I got it. No, I got it. No, I got it. What do you often see on the other side for that woman in her experience of perimenopause and menopause if she doesn't set the boundaries, if she doesn't receive the extra support, if she doesn't fill in the blank?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And the way I see all of our health is like it really all comes down to energy. Do I have enough energy to to maintain the function of the body to heal and repair what might need to be healed and repaired in the body at any point in time, like whether it's just fighting a sickness or improving, you know, healing from an injury. Do I have what I need now to make this transition? Do I have what I need to invest in, you know, investments that pay back, like fitness, for example, where we're trying to, age as gracefully and stay healthy as long as I can. When we are starting to make this transition, we want to recognize there's that energy drawdown. And if we've kind of been redlining it already, then that energy drawdown is actually putting us into what I like to refer to as health debt. If we are in health debt, the body does not have enough energy to even maintain the basic functions of our life. So this is where we will see our libido disappear, where we will see more period problems crop up, weight gain, where we feel like it's undeserved or unexplained coming on, where we will start to get more irritable or have more brain fog. Like this is where all of those symptoms start, is when I don't have enough to do what needs to be done in the body. And when you stay there in that pocket and don't make these changes to build up that reservoir of energy, that loss of function gets worse because the body needs energy to function. And then when we're there long enough, that's when we start to see disease and dysfunction at a level that is harder to come back from in this age box.
Yeah. Can I ask you a personal question? Okay, so you're 47, is that right?
No, I'm 42, almost 43.
42. Okay, so you're early on in this. I was gonna, well, I guess the question isn't so relevant though. Well, I guess it is. Let me just shift it a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you open to sharing just where you are with your symptom presentation of perimenopause and what are you doing? Are you adding supplements? Are you changing your exercise? Have you started exploring bioidenticals or HRT? Are you open just to sharing your like, here's what I'm doing right now?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, right now where I am at, like, so maybe I should say where I was at 37. I was someone who I was a trainer and nutrition coach first. So I worked out, 6 days a week, rain or shine, no matter what. And I was really starting to experience all of these, and I was quite stressed in my life. I was not very good at setting boundaries and things like that, or even listening to my body and hearing what it was saying. It was a real push through mentality. And a lot of the things that started coming up were, I stopped sleeping well. I had a lot of energy dips, a lot of cravings. My period definitely got wonky and heavier and more uncomfortable. I had a lot more anxiety, and I gained 15 pounds while I was doing all the same things I had done forever as a trainer.
Which you're lean, 15 pounds. I mean, you look like you're tall, at least via social media. We've never met
I
in
am
person,
5'7". Yeah,
but still
5'7".
15 pounds can feel significant.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
more, I think, yeah, I mean, I wasn't in a place where I was concerned about having a weight problem, but it was more, it's very, and this is, I think, what a lot of women feel in perimenopause. When your body is not responding, it can start to really, you can start to feel really disconnected, really lost, and really
Mhm.
confused, because it's like, well, I don't know how to even connect with myself, where I don't,
Mm.
I'm doing something and I'm not getting the result that I should be getting. And it can start to be very scary, I think, for a lot of women, and very frustrating and confusing. So the first things I had to really recognize, that was me kind of starting this baton passing, and my adrenals were taxed because I, wasn't necessarily fueling properly for my workouts. I had this bad habit of trying to work out a bad diet. Um, and I was highly stressed. So I was waking up most mornings with caffeine and ending most evenings with wine and calling it balance.
Mhm.
And I was doing a very high intense workouts amidst the regular stress of our lives, which ebbs and
Mhm.
flows for all of us, especially in midlife. So I had to really learn to pull back on the things that were absolutely, when you think about this health debt, it was costing more money than it was providing to my body. So a lot of these things, these choices that I was making, I had to really reprioritize sleep, because I was waking up at 4:30 every day to be able to get everything in, to do all of the things I needed to do. So it was a real like pull back and nourishing thing. And that is very hard for a lot of type A high achieving women, because, and I was one of them, I felt like I really tied my worth to my productivity. Who am
Mm.
I if I am not accomplishing these things? What is my,
Mhm.
um,
And how did you adjust your actual workouts? Because you have a fitness background.
do?
Were
Yeah.
you doing a lot of like running and high aerobic and then switched over to more kind of, I don't know, Pilates and yin yoga and weightlifting, or did you make any, are you still making adjustments?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was doing typically like 2 days of cardio and 4 days of kind of pretty heavy weight training and then like a hit workout. So, somewhere between like it was 3 days of kind of cardio hit and 3 days of weights at an
Hmm.
elevated heart rate for about 45 minutes a day. And I had to pull that entirely. But I couldn't go from that to nothing. And I still think we need functional movement in a day. But I went entirely to yoga, which was something I wanted to love but didn't at the time, because
Hmm.
you don't like to be still. You don't like what comes up in the stillness. So now you have to start
Hmm.
dealing with what's coming up in the still. So that was the big change I made, is that I had to pull it completely because I did not have the energy to invest in fitness at that level. And I think that's a really important thing for women to understand. We get really scared of like, oh, if I stop doing these workouts, I'm going to feel worse about myself. However, if we are in health debt, we don't have money slash energy to invest in athletic levels of fitness, which is what we're doing.
Right. We don't get to just take out another line of credit.
Nope.
HELOC,
Nobody.
HELOC.
Well, you can, but then the third time you have to do it, you're not going to be able to pay it back. So the third time, and this is where it slams us the hardest, nobody's lending you money, and now you're really
Yeah.
snookered.
Yeah.
And that is kind of how I like to look at it in the finance bit, is because what happens is then when the body doesn't have enough and it's in this health debt, it conserves for survival.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this is where people are like, I don't understand why I'm gaining weight. This is why. You can be eating
Hmm.
all the same. In fact, I run into a lot of women who aren't even eating enough, and that's a big stress on the body.
Uh-huh.
We need an energy surplus in order to stress the body out for weight loss or muscle development. And I think a lot of women don't recognize that. And at this
Hmm.
age, with a constant drawdown of perimenopause, unless you have done a really good job of saving and not overspending,
Yeah.
you're gonna find it very challenging. And I think
Yeah.
this is what we're seeing more and more.
And so, for those of you that are listening, if you're 35 to 45 and the symptoms aren't super pronounced yet, please listen, because this is a route about putting some savings in the account so that you have more to draw from.
Yeah, yeah,
And if you're listening to this and you're beyond menopause, it's not too late. We still get to prioritize our health. Can you speak? Because I know you kind of really works pretty specifically on one of the aspects is weight release.
yeah.
Can
Mhm.
you speak to why? Why is it during this chapter of 35 to 55 and beyond that a woman will say, "I'm doing all the same things, but I'm putting on extra weight." Can you kind of speak to what is happening and why is it happening?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There is, as our hormones decline, that is going to impact our metabolism, our metabolic health, our energy levels, and our recovery opportunity. So that's very real for women. I never want to diminish that. And that is where I think, proper testing and looking at bioidenticals can be a helpful opportunity for a lot of women. However, what I think is most important is understanding that if we know that the body must have, like, in order to even accept and receive hormones that we might be adding to the mix, we can't just look at production of them. We need to look at, is my body able to metabolize and detoxify them? Is my body able to absorb them?
Hmm.
And if your body is not in a place, and usually if we're in health debt, things are there. If we're not able to do those things, then taking hormones might not move the needle for you. And I think that's important to understand. We cannot avoid getting out of debt by just passing debt, or borrowing more money somewhere else. We have to do that underlying work to get out. And then things can, we can make really good investments. We can build wealth, or wealth health, I might call it. But
Yeah.
that's how I see it, is really why it's more difficult for the body, because one, yes, our hormones are declining, but I think more often than not, it's that we've had a loss of function in other parts of our body, and we need to address those to make sure the body is prepared to receive the benefits that
Hmm.
bioidenticals or so will. Awesome.
And even I'm thinking if you're going and buying beautiful, expensive, organic food that's non-GMO and picked by a monk in the Himalayan mountains,
Yeah.
if your body's not absorbing it, like I'm like, oh, my friends, where I go is Dutch
Yeah.
Plus test, GI map, comprehensive
Yeah.
thyroid panel. Let's
Yes.
look at the data.
Yes.
Is that kind of where you're leaning to?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, of
Okay.
course. I feel that, the same. It's like, you asked me about my journey, and I
Yeah.
at 40, so I have not needed bioidenticals yet at this point.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I was, even after feeling like I'd done a lot of that work and felt really good in, January this year, I was just feeling a little wonky again. Like my sleep was getting a bit funky. I was having a few digestive issues. My period started, all of it started happening a little bit again. And I was like, whoa. And luckily I was listening this time, but that's when I did do some functional lab work. Um, and I was able to find out that I was not breaking down proteins properly. So if we're
Yeah.
not breaking down proteins, then we're not absorbing those proteins. And what is
Hmm.
our muscle? And our hormones are made of amino acids, our muscles made of amino acids. So now I'm not getting those nutrients. So that's backing up the liver, which is going to throw off your hormones, and then it was like, okay, so we're not absorbing things properly. And I had some other things as well, but then I could see that my hormones were off. um, so that even that one thing is like huge,
Yeah.
especially during a time where if you're in perimenopause, it's like you're already juggling all the balls you can juggle. So you want to throw another ball in there or like light one on fire, it's going to make it trickier for you to
Hmm.
get there. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if I answered that question,
Yeah.
but
Oh my gosh, we could talk forever. And even for myself, I've had this lingering tooth, it's whatever. I did an episode like more a year and a half ago about this tooth that was going to get pulled. And then we didn't get it pulled. And I saw another dentist and another endodontist finally come to find out a root canal from 24 years ago was incomplete. And it's had this like festering, who knows what underneath there for 24 years.
oh my gosh.
And I finally went on a round of antibiotics. It's my first time taking antibiotics in at least 20 years. And oh my gosh, am I grateful for those amazing prescriptions that we can get when they're needed.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
I
mhm.
now know I've got 6 months of recovery for my gut microbiome, and I will be redoing another GI map so I can look at what's going on under there.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. I love, functional lab work because I really do like if we come back to that health debt example, like if we are like, okay, well, the first thing I need to do is stop doing the things that are leaking money out here and there, like all those
Hmm.
memberships we all have and aren't using, but are still paying for month after month. Right? That's what I'm like. We need to stop those things, right? You got to
Right,
stop
right.
just wasting money. And then
Totally.
the next step, I really think of it as like, okay, we need to really solidify our nutrition. As I said, I was really terrible at trying to avoid this piece. But aside from sleep, which is tricky right now, nutrition is like the only thing we get to control that provides a massive energy supply to the body. So we really
Hmm.
it's like choosing when you lock your nutrition in this money example, it's like getting a massive raise, having a higher paying salary, right? So you're like,
Yeah,
okay, now I'm not leaking money and now at least I'm making more money, right? Like this is
totally.
it has to happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
And I
laughing because, my kids today's their first day of school. They started fifth or sixth, fifth, and first grade. And this last weekend was the first time we were at an Airbnb and we found the game Life. Have you ever played this game?
yes, I love that game. I have it. We play it
It
here
was
often.
my first. We had so much fun, and my career was the doctor, and I had this great bonus money and got to invest. This is great.
I love that game.
How do, how do we bring in more bonus opportunities and
Yeah,
investment early on
yeah.
and
And break this down
wouldn't
in
it be
our
great
health.
if we could also reevaluate, do I really want to get married? do
Yeah,
I, do
yeah.
I really want to have kids? Of course I do.
I
Okay,
know,
I'm
I
listening.
know.
I'm listening.
They don't give you that choice in the game of life. You either get them or you don't, which I find interesting. I'm like, we should have an option, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's so funny and so true. And then it just
Hmm.
really, I think when we look at our health in this way, it just starts to become really tangible for my brain anyway. I love metaphors.
Hmm.
Then I think
Yeah.
about this piece around like doing a GI map, doing a Dutch test, like doing, food sensitivity or, hair mineral analysis. Like when we look at these pieces, I think we're almost like getting, we're doing an audit of our own finances and making sure our financial advisor isn't siphoning off things here and there that we didn't know were happening, or that no one's
Yeah.
like flipping things away and robbing you, because these are hidden stressors in the body, that are very difficult for us to find otherwise. Because when you run these labs, we're looking at the body really non-specifically, and let's just see, how is that function going? Because if it's plugged, or it's almost like, again, with this bank account, it's like you have little tiny holes all over the place. And so the function's just not going to,
Yeah.
flow as fast as we want it to. And
Mm-hmm.
we can call it aging, but a lot of it often has more to do with the fact that we just need to support and repair this function
Mm-hmm.
of the body.
Hey, question for you. I'm surprised I'll have some clients, particularly the really ambitious ones,
Mm.
where they'll enroll in one of my offers, we'll order the Dutch Plus and the GI map, and it will sit there on their desk for weeks, sometimes months.
Mhm.
And it's almost like they are so afraid
Mm.
to actually look under the hood and see the quote unquote truth. And they'll use the excuse of I'm too busy. But when we really whittle it down and get honest,
Yeah. Yeah.
or they'll fill out a food diary and they're like, wait, let me do it on a week that I'm eating well.
I
Like, how
know.
is that? Do you experience that? And how do you address it?
Yeah, that's funny. I haven't had a client avoid. Usually they're very excited to take the labs.
Okay.
So I
Hmm.
haven't run into that, but I can see, I feel like I might be someone who would, I'm a bit geeky about these things, so probably wouldn't, but I would do that in another situation. Like, yes, I'm going to
Uh-huh.
do this course. I'm going to do this course. I buy the course. And then I'm like, oh, I'm not ready to do this course yet.
Uh-huh.
Ready for the commitment of what that is.
Hmm.
So I think that is, I think that's a very real thing, and I see where that comes from. I haven't had it happen, but my thoughts on it are, I mean, nothing changes if nothing changes, right? So it's
Right.
like, and I shouldn't say that. Things are changing if nothing changes at this age. It's going in the wrong direction. So
Yeah.
the longer we wait to address these things, it's just going to get worse.
Right.
Yeah.
And when we live such full lives, and many people are like, yeah, I'll get to it. I'm busy putting out this fire. I'm busy putting out that fire. Versus going, okay, wait a minute. If I invest now, like
Mhm.
if I would have listened to that investor that came to me in to my high school class, I remember he
Yeah.
came in and encouraged all of us in high school
Yeah.
to put money in an IRA and a mutual fund or something like that, right? But what does it look like to really motivate individuals when the symptoms are kind of vague
Mhm.
and life is really full? And it feels like, yeah, I hear you, but I have all these fires to put out. Like I go, okay, we still brush our teeth every day. And I'm not sitting here saying it feels so good that I'm not getting a cavity right now. But
Yeah.
somehow we've all bought into we're still brushing our teeth every day and hopefully flossing.
Yeah. Hmm.
How do you communicate this whole concept of perimenopause and menopause, which is really preventive health, if we whittle
Yeah.
it down well?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if it's the same for you, but most often women come to me when they're so uncomfortable that, and they have no other choice in a way.
Yeah.
It would be ideal, and it's going to be easier for women like you and I who have a career in health. It would be ideal if we all had lab work, functional lab work done every year. So we understood what healthy looked like and felt like at the same time. So we had the quantifiable and qualifiable.
Hmm.
So I love when I occasionally get a client that's like an 8 and wants to be a 10. I think that's, always really, really fascinating. That's not the way our wellness world, I think, has taught us to be. I'm
Hmm.
hopeful that that is some of the movement we see change because it is preventative, right? When you're looking at these functional labs, it's subclinical. So it's so far down the tube, right? We're looking at things that it's like, this might not be presenting yet, but we can see the potential of it presenting. So we want to work on it so it never shows up and causes our life. But
Right.
I digress. That question you asked is, I think, I really like to ask people like, how's this work? How is your life working for you right now? Like, a lot of the times, because I draw on a lot more fitness people, they're like, don't tell me to give up my workouts. I'm like, how are those workouts working for you right now? Every day,
Mm-hmm.
you wake up early, you cut your sleep, maybe you caffeinate up, you put 30 to 45 minutes invest into something. Are you getting results? Because if that were anything else, like, would you keep spending money on something that's costing you more than no? So
Right.
let's try to be really realistic. That's why I try to use like metaphors. And I think for me, it works so well in my head is to really make it tangible in another example. Like, clearly what you're doing is not working. So are we going to just continue to do the thing that's not working and waste our energy?
Yeah.
Um, Otherwise, what's your plan? What's your plan?
Yeah. Right. And sometimes it's really helpful to have someone from the outside go, here's a mirror.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
here's the data. Here's what I
mhm.
see. I think of like a lot of women that listen to my podcast, many of them are entrepreneurs or running a business. And you might get, if you've got an employee that you're spending a ton of money on and they're not producing and they're kind of offering negative energy to the rest of the team,
Yeah.
do we just keep going because it's what's always been done? Or where do we step in to create some shift?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there is a very real perspective shift around what we deserve in our health that I think is
Mm,
important for women to start to step into. Like,
yeah.
my body is me. Like, I deserve to feel really great, and I'm not going to lower my standards to make you more comfortable, or because I think for too long we have put health as like a second and third priority when it literally should be number one.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to have to shove it to the side a little when we're raising young kids, maybe during that time. But at the same time, it's like, if we don't have our health, we don't have anything.
Hmm.
So how are we going to show up for that career that's so demanding, for our partner who, needs us, for our kids who definitely need us, if we don't even have a proper healthy relationship with ourselves?
Yeah.
And
And so many will go see their quote unquote doctor or healthcare provider and be told, oh, your labs look normal, or oh, this is just part of aging.
yeah,
And, I'm sure both of us are up at the mountaintop with a big drum,
yeah, yeah,
big cowbell.
yeah. That
Don't
was
believe them.
that was that
There
was
are
what
other
drove me.
answers.
Yeah, was that I was feeling so awful, and my healthcare practitioner was like, "You're the picture of health," and I'm like, "What?" Like, how
Right.
depressing that is when someone says it to you, and I'm like, it made me feel crazy. I was like,
Hmm.
if they're telling me on the picture of, and I feel like I'm losing my mind here, so
Mm,
uncomfortable, and I think a lot of women go through that dismissiveness, and I think that's why it is important to understand, that perimenopause is not diagnosable, but stuff is happening,
yeah.
like,
Right.
you're still going through it, and you can tell. And, you have to listen to what your body is and be able to start to trust it. And I think we can trust it better when we really look at the responses of lab work and feel it in ourselves, and we can
Yeah.
correlate those two things.
Hmm. Totally, totally, totally. I think it'd be fun to get into like some solutions. So I'm curious, you really highlighted starting with nutrition. I'd be curious if we go like liver health, gut health,
Mm,
adrenal health, hormone health, maybe thyroid.
yeah.
If we can touch on all five. If you were to choose one nutrition shift maybe for each of those five categories,
Oh.
and for those of you listening, probably grab pen and paper now. Now's your time if
Ah,
you haven't already been taking notes. But like, is it if you could choose one supplement or one nutrition shift for each? So give five. So one for each of those categories, now because now you can have more options.
that's really hard, Mariah, because
Yeah.
I do feel like I fundamentally believe there are some foods we know are bad for all people. Like, we
Hmm.
know, I will still enjoy, a cocktail and a glass of wine and champagne. I also know it is not serving. Like, I know that it takes more than it gives, so I choose it wisely.
Yeah.
We know that sugar is not doing much, but my daughter made brownies last week, and yes, I had one, but that's my choice based on what my health and my body is at. But I think all of the rest of the foods are really bio-individual based on the needs of and this is why I also really think functional lab work is so important. Know your body, because
Mm.
we've got people, I've had clients, like, especially back in my fitness days, like in fitness competitions off of a keto diet. So enjoy, like, eating things that I would never eat. I've seen plant-based vegans look glowy and beautiful. I have also seen people eat keto and feel nauseous, and eat vegan and, look deadly. And that has everything to do with you discovering your fuel mixture.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But that being said, I'll try to answer your question anyway. Like, so I think one, when it comes to your nutrition, here's how you learn your fuel mixture. You can do some metabolic typing, or you can just, for 2 weeks, pay attention to what you eat and how it makes you feel and adjust as accordingly. Do we need more, am I eating at, I believe that we should be eating a minimum of 25 grams of protein per meal, more if you're exercising, more if you're a fast oxidizer, right? Like some people, I have a client who eats like 50 grams at breakfast, and that's what sustains her. But we also have
Mm-hmm.
carbohydrates and protein. So I'm a big balance person. And pay attention. I wanted to try to give some things. Pay attention to how it makes you feel. How does it
Mm-hmm.
make you feel in your energy? How does it make you feel in your satiety? How does it make you feel in your mood? That's what your food does for you. And it should make you full and satisfied for 4 to 5 hours. If it's not, you need more of something in there.
Can I also add,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing because you're the period whisperer, that might change if you are the week after you bleed versus the week before you bleed. Do
Okay.
not expect
Yeah.
that the same breakfast or an extended intermittent fast or keto or vegan, whatever it is going to feel the same in your body.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're on the same page there.
I'm so glad you said that. I have to remember that when I share this because it's important information. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Half the month your body's metabolism is pretty busy either preparing for a human or like cleaning up after the human never came. So that means that equates to an extra 250 to 350 calorie burn per day. And this is where I think we've got sold a bit of a bill of lies. We're all like, oh, I'm supposed to be cranky and tired in PMS. It's like, no, you're not eating enough. Like there's not enough energy supply for the demand that your body. That's what happens. We have cravings,
Yeah.
we get cranky. Like that's like hangry 101,
Right.
you know?
Well,
So
and also I think the lights are on inside versus external. So we're just, the inner critic is up. So
yes, that's true.
feed yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm listening.
Yeah, no. So yes, I agree. I think when we pay attention, so I said 2 weeks. I think we should track for at least a month because we know our cycle ebbs and flows. I absolutely during my luteal and menstrual phase, eat more. Like there's an extra piece of toast at breakfast with peanut butter and banana on it. There is
Yeah.
more, especially in my early meals, because that's when I find I really need it. But only so we have to do the work and pay attention. Doesn't have to be done forever, just a small period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think I may have to just leave it that because being more specific, but maybe you could share, but maybe being more specific about one food or one, I really find it's so individual for
Yeah.
people. That's why I encourage like, okay, we
Yeah.
need to work together or you need to pay attention or we need to look at labs to really determine what's going to be ideal for your body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, what about broad strokes for adrenal support?
Okay,
Maybe
yes.
not nutrition, maybe just broad
Yeah.
strokes. If let's
So
say
broad
someone
strokes.
is like, okay, I'm waking up tired, I'm having my afternoon slump, I'm craving salty foods,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
hair is falling out, my hormones are all over the
Yeah.
place. I think I might be in adrenal fatigue.
Yeah. Broad strokes. I believe the first line of defense for for hormonal support, but certainly for adrenal support is consistent blood sugar and and really just having like a solid foundation where the body's not wondering where its energy is coming from. So this means
Mhm.
like really regular bedtime, like consistent bedtime and wake time, consistent eating times and eating enough. And I would absolutely pull workouts and just focus on like 7 to 10,000 steps in a day for movement. Like if you don't have the energy to do those things, then we have no business spending energy on workouts. Let's
Right.
just get the
But
foundation.
wait, I had 2 shots of espresso. Doesn't that?
And we should never have coffee on an empty stomach. That is a really big thing for me. Like never, 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 never have caffeine
Mm.
on an empty stomach. For a lot of women, caffeine's not even good at all. You know, but don't throw your Starbucks cup at me. So you can have, I think a cup of coffee a day with or after breakfast. Okay, that works. Otherwise, it could impact sleep. It's certainly impacting our adrenals.
Mhm.
Um, and it costs the body more than it's giving. It's like a false sense of money, I think,
Yeah.
where it's like you're just
Go back
getting
to
this,
the money example.
yeah,
Hmm.
and it get like, yeah.
And
Mhm.
well, as I'm sitting here listening, I'm on my first day of bleeding, and it came a little bit unexpected because I'm in this chapter of the last few months where there's some new irregularity, and it was full, and today was the first day of school, and I woke up with like, oh, surprise. Of
Yeah.
course, I woke up hungry and an avocado and an egg and a
Yeah.
gluten-free piece of toast, and I'm sitting here listening. I've got my jar of nuts down here in the drawer. I'm like, I'm gonna eat some pecans while I'm doing this because
Yeah.
I need some protein, yo.
Yeah. I love nuts because they're kind of like this perfect little power food of all the things we need. And if you can
Hmm.
digest them well, then they're really amazing, right?
Hmm. And
Like,
if you can't digest them well, it doesn't mean it's forever. It just means you need some gut support, right?
yes, often it's just mucosal barrier issues, right? In our
Hmm.
GI or some gut issues. So,
Hmm.
yeah, those are,
Okay. This has been so yummy, so juicy. Anything that feels incomplete, anything you want to add, let's make sure you can, those that are listening, make sure you have a chance to tell them.
yeah.
How do you work with people? What do you have to offer? How do they reach out to you? Like, let's make sure we can kind of put a big bow on it.
Hmm.
It's probably big and red and velvety and soft and
I love it. Or pink and velvety. Um,
pink.
so the one thing I will add that I think is important, because I think people, I love this from, again, I'll bring it back to the health debt. If we've now done the work, we've, stopped doing the things that are wasting money. We've got a better salary by really solidifying our nutrition. We're making sure like no one's stealing money from us by checking in and checking the function of our body. A lot of people stop there. And I think a really important step that is critical to keeping you from sliding back into health debt is to make sure that you are addressing the soul food of your life. Because I think we drastically, especially in North America, underestimate how much energy is provided to us through things that fill our soul, like our purpose, in our relationships, in our connection to something, to spirituality, and in all of those places that matter. And we drastically underestimate how much energy they suck when they are not solid. So, taking the time as you build your energy before you take this in money, you're like, oh, I finally have a bit of money and a bit of energy to spend on fitness. Before you start spending it, let's just really make sure. Here's my example with the money. Go to your accountant and make sure you are clear on all of the tax benefits that you get because you don't want to leave money, you don't want to leave energy on the table. Because when you feel fulfilled in your career or in your relationships or in something bigger than you, all these other things that can start to eat away at you, these small things, they get a lot smaller. And I think that's an important part of perimenopause because we are going from a time where half the month we have been hormonally hijacked to prioritize other people over us to having all month to sit with our real feelings. That's what
Mm.
the impact of our hormones. And that can seem scary, but it's really important and it's a really efficient way to live your best damn life.
Oh, so good. It's like profit first to the max.
Yeah.
Profit first meets perimenopause and
Yeah.
entrepreneurship.
I'm just helping me make
So
sense of
good.
things. So
Um,
yeah, that's
soul
my
food of your life.
yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it can be little things like I forgot how much I love musical theater. And the other day, a song from The Greatest Showman came on, and Maraya, like, I just turned it up in my car, and
Yes.
I felt like even now, just talking about it, I can like feel my skin just buzz from like just whatever it was in there that lit my soul on fire,
Mhm.
and that was done in a 4 minute song. And I can tap into it any point in time, but that should be every day. We should be accessing a little thing like that. Or,
Yeah.
go to a hot yoga and just feel poured out, or, you know, whatever it is for you that makes you feel alive. And if you have forgotten, it's okay. We all forget, but you have to go find those things because
Mhm.
when we when we focus so much on just the tiny little things of our health and how they're bugging us all the time, we can get really stuck in that muck. And we need to start thinking a little bigger for ourselves to pull through and find the humor in this transition.
So good. I love it. I often say we get to take an account of what goes in and out of our eyes, our mouth, and our heart.
Yes.
And they're all either adding to this bank account or taking out.
Yeah.
Like, what do I choose to allow my eyes to see each day? Am I watching the news? Am I scrolling through crap social media? Through what mind's eye am I choosing to see the world, see
Yeah.
myself, see others? Can I shift to gratitude? What's going in my mouth? You talked
Yeah.
about nutrition and I'm sure personalized supplementation and hydration, and then my heart.
Yeah.
Who's the community that I keep? Am I bringing in soul food?
Yeah. If you want to 10x your energy, bring in your soul food. Bring it
Yeah.
on. That's the thing.
And
That's what's the
and
difference between people who are good enough and people who are wealthy in their health.
right. But I think this, like, what's going in and what's going out, what's coming out of my mouth?
Yes,
What are
because
the words? What's the story? What's coming
yeah,
out of my heart?
yeah, yeah,
Am I allowing myself to pour out love? Because it gives us energy, especially when it's done in a filled up place.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I agree.
Okay. What if someone wants to reach out to you? How do they do it? Why would they do it? Who would do that? That
Yeah, I love that.
audacious thing to reach
Yeah,
out to you.
I think any woman who, knows they should feel better than they do, and wants to, because I have that fitness component, I really like to take people from hormonal chaos to I'm making this investment in my body. So if you are, for high achieving women, for women who felt stuck, for women who want to, get out of health debt and be able to make these investments in their health, this is what I love to do, and certainly my passion. And I work with people one-on-one, and in a group coaching format, which I just launched twice a year. And then I have some small things, but those are, I think, the best ways to work with me. But come check out the Period Whisperer podcast. Come hang out on Instagram, which is at Bria_period_whisperer. Those are the most common places you'll find me, and see, at the very least, you'll get some free tips or some focus if the health debt example resonated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of those will be in the show notes. And if you're listening to this real time in Facebook world, I'll go back in and put her Instagram and podcasts and links there in the comments. And Bria, I'm just grateful for the the cowbell that you're clanging at the top of the mountain and
Ditto.
the ways that you're impacting women around the world because it's needed.
Yeah, thank you. Same
Mhm.
to you. I think,
Mhm.
two voices together are louder. So I'm so grateful for how you show up and how you help women, and just to know you. So thank you.
Yeah. And our work is very, very similar. And what I know is we live in a universe that's abundant.
Yeah.
And there might be someone that resonates in a different way with my energy versus your energy. And
Yeah.
we get to listen to that inner whisper and go, wow, I just feel her energy and I'm left leaning in. And if that's the case, then reach out.
Yeah.
And then for anyone who's listening to this before September 18th, I'm hosting Pause. I'm doing an online free event. It'll be 4 hours over 4 days. Watch it live, watch the recording. And what I say on the landing page, just go to marayabrown.com/pause. And I say, you're not crazy, the world is.
I love that it's called Pause. That's amazing.
Called
Brilliant.
pause.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we all need to take that pause
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
we're in perimenopause and
Yeah.
menopause.
Just pause.
So would love to see you there. And yes, head over to Period Whisperer podcast. It's lovely. And you can listen to our episode. I'll make sure that the podcast team puts that in the show notes as well so that
It's so
we can
good.
do that swap. And Bria, cheers to school being back.
Yes. Cheers. Thank you. All the
Yeah.
best to you as you settle
Mhm.
into this transition.
Yeah. Great transitions and grateful for you. Thanks to the listeners. You're welcome to comment. Of course, leave a review. I love reading them, and I'm sure Bria does too. And I don't know about you, Bria, if you're much in the Facebook world, but if there's any specific questions that I'm seeing on Facebook, I'll make sure to take screenshots and send them your way.
Perfect. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.